So let's go now into PvPing as Shadow, which I would assume is the most you guys have seen from my channel so far. I see you guys like that. As a Shadow Priest, you are one of the best classes in 1v1 situations and duels, which is exactly what the PvP right now in phase 1 is for me so far. It's a little bit random, so what I like to do now is I quickly jump someone, I kill them as fast as possible, do a quick burst of damage, and then reset, drinking to full mana, and look for my next victim. And that's why right now in phase 1 I like to prioritize spell power, and specifically shadow spell power obviously, more than mana and health. But later on in phase 2, when honor system is out and everyone is grouping up to PvP, everyone will be farming honor and ranking up in groups of 3, 4, 5 people probably. Probably there will be raids as well. I'm not sure how exactly it's gonna work and what the meta is going to be to farm honor and rank up efficiently, but little adjustments to the gear can be made later on to get more intellect and stamina, and we're gonna talk about them right now. So for the gear to PvP as Shadow, apart from Scholomance being a great place as well, just like Discipline, also Stratholme Undead part comes into play here. You have 3 to 4 items from there. Starting from the helm piece, we have the Crimson Felt Hat, which is from Stratholme Undead. It gives a lot of spell damage, 30 spell damage. You will have competition for this though, other mages and warlocks will want it as well, but it is a great item that gives intellect, stamina and spirit as well. All of these stats are very nice. And the gloves is Fell Cloth gloves, which give 33 shadow spell damage and 9 stamina. This is a lot of spell damage that we have so far from these two pieces. The Fell Cloth gloves, by the way, are crafted by tailors, so you can get them crafted or purchase them straight up from the auction house. They are BOE. And here is what I was talking about, adjustment, going down in spell damage but getting more stats. Here the Dread Mist mask, which we use for discipline, and the Dread Mist gloves as well, these same two pieces that we use in the discipline gear. Now this will increase our HP and mana, but we'll lose a bit of spell damage. But this is good when group PvPing, because like I said, mana burns and all that stuff in group PvP, stats might be better than spell damage. Neck, the best one would be Dark Advisor's Pendant, which drops from the boss Vectus in Scholomance, but that one is really hard to get because that boss most of the time doesn't really drop anything. This is a very rare neck drop. Something that's a little bit easier to get is Anastari Heirloom, which is from Stratholme Undead, and you will be doing that for other pieces anyway. It also gives shadow spell damage and a lot of stamina, 15 stamina. For the shoulders, we have the Necro Pal shoulders, and just like for discipline, I'll be keeping the full Necro Pal set for shadow as well, which is generally a very heavy on stamina set that also gives decent amount of intellect and some spirit. And it has great bonuses for PvP, intellect, 4 pieces is 15 of all resistances, very nice for all sorts of PvP, shadow, discipline, whatever. And for the full 5 set pieces we have increased spell damage and healing. The cloak is Sprite Caster Cape, spell damage and healing with spirit, which is great. We have mana problems anyway, so some spirit or mana per 5 seconds for mana regen is great, comes in handy. Intellect, stamina from this, the Necro Pal chest, the Necro Pal bracers. As a belt we have the Banthok Sash. You have the hit chance covered in when you play Shadow. You have it from talents. With just 3 points on Shadow Focus talent, you have 6% hit. No need more than that for items. But Banthok Sash is something I got for my disc gear, and I'm using it for Shadow as well because it's overall a really nice belt that gives good amount of stamina, intellect and spell damage. If you want to not have that 1% hit there, but have a little bit more spirit, you can use Thazadin Sash, which is from Stratholme Undead, and it's the same amount of stats as the other one, almost, but instead of the hit, you get 11 spirit. We got the Necro Pal Pants, the Necro Pal boots, which add up a little bit of spell damage as well. Very nice. And for the rings, one of mine that I use right now is Eye of Orgrimmar. It gives no stamina, but it's a boost in spell damage. Later on, we could try to look for something for more intellect and stamina in group PvP, but right now for solo PvP, Eye of Orgrimmar, good ring. Blood of the Martyr is from a quest from Stratholme, and Eye of Orgrimmar is from a quest for BRD. It's a pretty long quest chain, but the ring is amazing. You might use it for pretty much everything, PvP, PvE. It's worth doing that chain and getting the Eye of Orgrimmar. And the Trinkets, Briarwood Reed, which is from Jed in UBRS. I use this pretty much all the time now for phase 1 solo PvP. It's a pretty big boost in spell damage. And the other Trinket is swapped all the time. Remember the Trinket swapping game? And you can definitely tell the difference between a more and a less skilled player, depending on how they play around swapping Trinkets and all that. Mind Tap Talisman is decent. It adds mana regen because we often have mana problems. But you know, the carrot on a stick for mounting, the engineering trinkets and all the reflectors and all that stuff, very important to swap around depending on the situation. As weapons, we have Skull's Ghastly Touch, which is dropped from Skull in Stratholme. It's actually part of Stratholme Living, but you can always ask your party to go a little bit out of their way and look for Skull when you're doing Stratholme Undead. No need to do whole Stratholme Living just for this, because you can see him from the Undead side when you enter through the other entrance where you need a key, and you will be able to slash target Skull, the boss, and you will see if he's there. It's a rare boss, it doesn't always spawn, but this is definitely a good wand to pick up as soon as possible. It deals shadow damage, so your talents that give shadow damage amplify the damage of your wand, and also on equip it gives you 14 shadow spell damage. Very nice wand. Offhand, Spirit of Aquamantus, which is obtained through a quest chain in Ungoro Crater, and it gives 20 spell damage. The weapon, we have Scepter of the Unholy, which is from Stratholme Undead, last boss. There is this other one option, the dagger from Dire Maul West, I believe. Yes, from Dire Maul West, that gives the same stats, 19 shadow spell damage and 5 stamina, but this is the dagger, so probably Warlocks will be going for it as well. I don't really know the Warlock gear and what they want, but if you get Scepter of the Unholy, it pretty much will have no competition, and you're doing Stratholme Undead part anyway for the other 4 items that you can get from there. As for enchants for shadow PvP, the same as for discipline PvP, I think of enchants as a compensation of what I'm lacking. So since I will be using my Necro Pal set for both discipline and shadow PvP, like I said earlier, I will have enchanted here. Basically, I will have a little bit of both on the Necro Pal set. I will have 150 mana on pants. On chest, I will have an HP enchant plus 100. On the bracer, I will have 9 stamina. On the shoulders is the 5 resistances, which, like I said, it's really hard to get. It takes a lot of time to grind that reputation with the Argent Dawn, but it's totally worth it because resistances are great. And on the boots, we have minor speed enchant. On the hat now, looking at my stats like this, I definitely want to have more mana here. HP is looking okay, so on the hat I will put 150 mana. And on the gloves we have the minor speed on mount enchant. Anything else that's not enchanted, the weapon we can put 30 spell damage. Amazing for shadow, obviously, the best option. I would not go and enchant that expensive enchant most likely on my, like, the Scepter of Unholy. I will wait until I get Benediction, and you know that you can turn into Anathema, and then I would enchant that, because right now in the early stages of Classic these enchants cost quite a lot. But if you have a good way of farming gold, it should not be a problem though. Oh yeah, and the cape is not enchanted, we put another 5 of all resistances on the cape as well. And just like the discipline set, this puts us at least 25 of each resistance, which is great in PvP. We can resist fully a spell, and we also have a chance to partially resist some of the damage of a spell. You know how resistances go. So let's take a look at what items we can get from raiding and use in PvP for Shadow. Here I would add 6 items total from raiding and use in PvP. Some of them will be almost impossible to get, but we have Choker of the Fire Lord. This one, I do not raid as Shadow, so even less chances for me to get it. The raid leaders will prioritizing the mages and the warlocks anyway, even if I was raiding as a Shadow. But it's cool in my dreams. Sapphiron Drape is a Cloak from Onyxia, 14 spell damage, intellect, stamina, and good resistances. We have Anathema, the most important item that I would get. If I could only get one, I would get this. It's a huge buff of intellect. As you can see, the pre-raid gear, we have no intellect from the weapons, just spell damage, and even then it's not that much. The Anathema or Benediction, you know, you can swap Benediction into Anathema with a 30 minutes cooldown. This is by far the biggest upgrade in the game. This stuff is the best stuff in the game right now in phase 1, and it will be the best for a few phases. So the earlier you get this, the happier you will be, and the more you will enjoy the game in general. Just pray that you get it. 31 intellect, resistance, 69 spell damage, 7 mana per 5 seconds. Whew. What a stuff. The 2 rings I would like to have set up is like a compensation of each other, I would like to call it. Ring of Spell Power is no stats but a lot of spell damage, 33, and CO of the Archmagus is the opposite. No spell damage, but it gives all the stats. Intellect, stamina, spirit. We have 6 of all resistances, and that's great in PvP like we mentioned. And we have a tiny bit of mana regen as well. The belt I would get if I could is Mana Ignition Cord, which is from Molten Core as well. And it gives 1% critical chance, 25 spell damage, and 16 intellect. The best part about it is that it gives intellect, and Shadow Priest suffers for mana a little bit anyway, so the intellect is nice. There is this other option as well, Sash of Whispered Secrets, which is also from Molten Core. It gives 20 stamina and 33 shadow spell damage, so that is more shadow spell damage compared to this one, and more stamina, but this one gives intellect, and I'm okay with having a bit spell damage but having this much more intellect. And also 1% critical chance with spells, which is, you know, really nice. You see in my videos those big Mind Blast crits, and from personal experience probably, you know how satisfying it is when you hit a big crit with your Mind Blast and it takes half of the HP of the enemy in one spell. So like I showed my gear in the PvP discipline part of the video, here I'll show you my current PvP shadow gear as well. And I have the green lens of Shadow Wrath. I'm trying to get the Crimson Felt Hat. It hasn't dropped for me so far for a long time, but this is a nice other option until you get the hat. The reason I want the hat is because of the intellect and spirit. I would like to get a tiny bit of mana regen and intellect increase, because I struggle for mana a little bit anyway, and the glasses are a good option anyway. I have the neck, I have the whole Necro Pal Spritecaster cape, Fellcloth gloves, I have Anathema. It is enchanted with 55 healing, which has no use in Shadow PvP, but the way I thought about what to enchant on my weapon was like, it was like a 2v1 sort of thing. I use Benediction for raiding in PvE. I raid as a healer, that's what I do. And in PvP discipline, also the 55 healing. So 2 things that 55 healing benefits a lot, but then the only thing I use Anathema for is for Shadow PvP. So here I could have 30 spell damage, I'm missing on that, but it's fine in my opinion. I'm still owning people left and right, you know, from my videos. I have the seal of the Archmagus, I managed to get it from Molten Core. And here I could replace this belt with a Mana Ignition Cord. I could get myself a Ring of Spell Power. Still have left to get the Onyxia Cape, which I will use for both Discipline and Shadow PvP. I'll be really happy when I get this. It's not hard, it's not supposed to be. It's just I'm being a bit unlucky to... it's not dropping for me so far. And my trinket, I have this one, Shard of Rasa. It's green one. It's from a quest chain. It restores mana per 5 seconds and health. But when I get the option, the Mind Tap Talisman from Dire Maul is better because it restores more mana. But the trinkets, you know, I'm swapping them around anyway. Briarwood Reed is a must-have. In some situation, then I will be swapping this one for the Carrot on a Stick or some engineering stuff. So right now from my current gear, I'm getting 280 Shadow Spell Power, which is quite a decent amount. You have seen those big Mind Blasts and those hard ticking Shadow Word Pains. You know, if I swap around for a group PvP, you know, swap the helm and the gloves with the Dread Mist ones, like I said earlier, I can get more mana and HP. So the only thing I would have to get here is another mana regen trinket, the one from Dire Maul, get my Onyxia cape, and if I could get that Molten Core belt that we talked about, the mana ignition cord, that would be great too. If I could get the Crimson Felt Hat, that would be a nice little addition as well. But overall, with just a couple of new replacements, I am ready to PvP as Shadow as well. I will be doing both, ranking up as Shadow and Discipline, and I will be ready to smash some faces and farm some honor.